Hello and welcome back to Dewey Rides. And right behind me is Mt St Helens, and we are going to head up the Windy Ridge side, which is on the east and northeast side of the mountain. So let's get going and do that now. YouTube, it's Dewey and welcome to Windy Ridge. As you saw in the intro, we are working our way up towards Mt St Helens. Where we are now is on the east side of the mountain, heading towards the northeast side of it. So this is Windy Ridge Road. This is a motorcyclist favorite, and you can see why. It is very twisty. There's lots of frost heaves and some stuff, so you've got to be really on your game if you're going to ride this fast. I have been known to ride it fast. We're going a slightly easier pace today because, as you can see in front of me, we have Rick, and he's riding two up with Sherry. So this is Sherry's first time on the channel, so everybody give Sherry a big shout out in the comments for riding pillion on Rick's bike on this road. So Windy Ridge is a little different side of the mountain. This is the side of the mountain where there was a lot of people prior to the eruption. There is a lake up here where we're going to stop called Spirit Lake, and it was home to a bunch of different lodges and campgrounds and things like that. There was a Boy Scouts and a Girl Scouts camp. There were several campgrounds, and there was a lodge called the Mt St Helens Lodge, and it has become pretty famous. One is it had a gorgeous view, as I'm throwing up on the screen for you, what Mt St Helens and the lodge looked like prior to the eruption. You can see why it was so popular. It was a great little alpine lake, great view of a gorgeous mountain. But it's incredibly close proximity to the mountain, and it's also on the northeast side. The north side of the mountain is what exploded. It wasn't a up and down explosion or vertical explosion when Mt St Helens erupted. What happened was a lateral eruption, which means that everything was shot to the north side of the mountain, and it just devastated this area. Now, we're just coming out of the trees area here, and you're going to get to see some of the destruction from up here. But no matter what, this is a stunning ride. This is a beautiful area and a beautiful part of the mountain. And yeah, you can just, driving up here, you can see why it was absolutely popular with people and campers. But at the Mt St Helens Lodge, there was one famous character. His name was Harry Truman. Not the U.S. president, let's be clear about that. Harry Truman was not at Mt St Helens when it erupted. But the Harry Truman that ran the Mt St Helens Lodge was. And by all accounts, he was a bit of a boozer, a bit of a womanizer. He'd been married 4 times or something like that. And he was famous for going on camera when talk of an imminent eruption started happening, that this was his home, and no matter what, he was not leaving it. And famously, he did not. And there's Mt St Helens, so you really get an idea of our proximity to it here. And so Harry Truman refused to leave his lodge on Spirit Lake, and was very vocal about it on all the local news channels, saying that whether or not the USGS knew what they were talking about, he didn't care. It was his home, and he was staying. And he did stay and died in the eruption, along with several other people that were on this side of the mountain in this area. There were people who hiked in to try to find views of the mountain to see if it erupted, and not knowing just the sheer scale of the eruption that would happen. And you know, you can start seeing some of the destruction here, and I believe there's been quite a bit of this that has been replanted as well. But this gives you an idea of the destruction and the scale of it. Rick had a Red Bull this morning. I did too, but I did not expect him to pick the wick up there like that. This is, remember now, we are 40 years on from Mt St Helens eruption, and a lot of this, there's been replanting done as well. They planted millions of trees in the Mt St Helens National Forest just to try to recover the ground, but they've also left part of it untouched to see how it naturally recovered as a science experiment, which is quite interesting. And I believe that there's a lot of places on this side of the eruption zone that are untouched and not replanted. So what we're going to do is watch Rick rip this road apart a little bit and then stop at Spirit Lake and get an idea of what it was like there and what happened. Because you can actually see Mount Adams, I believe, over there. Was that windy enough for you, Sherry?
It was awesome.
So this behind me is Spirit Lake. So on this side of the lake is where Harry Truman's lodge was. And what actually happened here is the mountain's right over there. And the whole northern flank of the mountain slid off of here. It was the largest recorded landslide to ever happen. And all of that debris that came down the mountain ended up moving this lake 200 feet this way, and it raised the elevation about 400 feet. And all of this water rushed up these hills behind me and then came back down, and that's what brought all these trees down. Is they're not ones that were blasted into the lake, they're from the hillside behind it as it slid down. And that's what ultimately killed Harry Truman, as we talked about, was that entire landslide, the rush of water, all that debris just buried everything where it was. So there's hundreds of feet of rubble where Harry Truman's lodge used to be. But that shows you a little bit of the scale of the devastation that happened with Mt St Helens and the size of the landslide. When you look at just how big that lake is and realize that hundreds of feet this way and hundreds of feet this way is just a massive amount of debris. So what we're gonna do is head farther up to Windy Ridge, where you get a great view of the mountain. You can see just how that whole flank slid down from up there. There's Mt this corner, there is Mt St Helens. Yes, as you can see, that's what the lateral blast was right there, and that whole side of the mountain slid down and is what filled up Spirit Lake. And of course, once you have that much of the mountain, there was already pressure built up. They had swelling of the mountain that they were measuring, and eruption and earthquakes. So once that side of the mountain finally fractured and slid off, it was like popping the cork on a champagne bottle at that point with all that built up pressure. And that's why you had such an explosive eruption like Mt St Helens did. It wasn't like lava just started flowing out of it like the Hawaiian volcanoes. It was a massive, massive explosion when that pressure released. Came down and filled Spirit Lake. This is the edge of it, and why it shifted it over. So that's going to end the Mt St Helens series. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And next up will be some off-road riding and the Oregon backcountry discovery routes with Mike. So until next time, let's do it out.